Why didn't that work? Why did that not work? All right, let's see. Let's see if this works. Does this work? Let's see. Okay, it's working. All right. That was confusing. Okay, so today we got a deal in 35215. Just looking at this area a little bit northeast of the Birmingham airport. Just picking around a few numbers. I think I picked this one right. Yeah, 164 grand. This is 1544 six-way Birmingham, Alabama, 35215. This has been a property for 57 days, 1,800 square feet. You can see that this property is relatively turnkey. It looks like the flooring is fine. Maybe there's some touch-up paint, but it looks fine and painted, to be honest, for the most part. Is the bathroom a little dated? Yeah, but you don't also have to over renovate on a property either. So for the most part, this looks pretty good. So for the purpose of today, let's try and figure out whether or not this is going to cash flow. So the first thing we want to do is we want to pick up the county. And you can just do this by looking up the county, doing a keyword search here, and finding that it's in Jefferson County. Next thing we want to do is want to Google HUD FMR, fair market rent. That's what FMR stands for. And you're going to go to the bottom and click on this link right here, which says access a small area FMRs. And then now you can look up FY. Oh, the 2025 numbers are up. That's the first time I've seen this. All right, let's see what the numbers are now. Interesting. So to go to Jefferson County, let's see what the numbers have done now. So this is in 35215. So now you can see by bedroom count, by zip code, what the updated rents are for a 3-bed and a 4-bed. Huh. This is great news. You can see that most of these numbers, I think the 4-beds were mostly like the 1400s. You can see that the rents have gone up now, which is all a great sign, right? So at 1420, no, 1460 is 35215. 35215, 1460. Okay. And now you're going to have 1650 for a 4-bed, 1650 for a 4-bed. Now it's for 35215. Okay. Since these rents just got updated, chances are your rents probably in the market have not caught up yet. So let's go ahead and try to figure out what's going on here. So when you go to here, let's go ahead and go to affordablehousing.com, go to the market rent estimator, plug in your address, your bedroom count, and now you're going to see that for 25 units within a 1.43 mile radius, the average rent is $1,457. $1,457. So obviously it's not as high as 1650. Just keep in mind that 1650 typically includes utilities. So 1450 seems right on the money here. And this is for a 1.4 mile radius. So that tells me it's a relatively small radius, right? 1.4 miles isn't that spread out. And for 4-beds, these are probably all single family homes because you don't see that many 4-bedroom apartments. So 1447, 1433, and I'm just writing down all these numbers because my partners already know how to analyze deals. So this allows me to figure out whether or not this deal is going to be cash flowing on a reasonable rent basis. So at 1457, I am going to use the lower of the two for my rental assumption. So I'm doing 1457 for my rental assumptions because of this test called the rent reasonableness test. Okay, let me go pull up the rent and reasonableness test for you so you guys can see what I'm talking about. In the Housing Choice Voucher or HCV program guidebook, there is a test in section 2.2 called the rent reasonableness test. And it says right here that in conducting rent reasonableness, the PHA or Public Housing Authority must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units. This simply means that you can't charge more rent to a voucher holder simply because they are a voucher holder. So if you were to go ahead and use $1,650 as a rent, you will be grossly overestimating the rent that you will be getting for this property in comparison to the market rent that we saw right here, where it says $1,457 as a rent for 25 units, right? And that could be the difference between you making money and losing money on your investment. So this is something that you need to pay really, really close attention to, okay? So now we're gonna go and plug in the rest of the numbers to figure out whether this property is gonna cash flow, assuming you're doing conventional financing. So at 163,900, we're gonna see a rehab number of roughly, let's call it some touch-up paint on less than 20% of the property. So what I typically do is, starting from the top, I always set aside $1,500 for the roof repairs, just in case there's any issues here in row 6. I got $500 set aside for my landscaping in row 46 on this rehab calculator spreadsheet. I got, let's do 20%. So it was 1,800 square feet, 1,800 square feet divided by 5. That makes me 20% square feet. Let's just assume that there's $1,000 of repairs or touch-up paint or some small work that needs to get done. I'm going to leave that in there. And I'm assuming everything else works, so I'm just going to replace toilets with high-pressure flush toilets. That's my personal preference. You don't have to do that. But that's how I try to prevent some clogged toilet calls, because that typically happens. All right, so now I'm going to set aside $4,700 of renovations just in case something needs to get repaired. So on this property, at $1,457 of rent, I'm going to go and plug in my property taxes. I'm going to go down here, $167 for the property taxes. I'm going to get that right from the Redfin estimated calculator. Obviously, you should be checking with the county assessor to really understand whether or not that's your true tax amount, because you got to look up and be more specific. But for today, we're just trying to figure out whether or not this is worth our time. Now, the insurance estimate right here was 127. So I'm going to equals 127 and B29, and I'm going to multiply by 1.2. I'm multiplying by 1.2 because I'm adding a 20% premium to the insurance estimate. The reason I'm doing that is because typically this insurance estimate on a Redfin website is probably going to be for a home that you live in there as a prime residence. When you use it as an investment property, insurance companies typically view it as a riskier product, a riskier investment on their end. So they're going to charge more. So that's why I'm adding a 20% premium by multiplying it by 1.2. Then I got 10% of my rent set aside for my maintenance and my war chest. This is just in case something big happens, or I'm going to have a reserve account. And the best way to describe this account is that this is money that doesn't belong to you, right? We all know a roof is going to get replaced in 10, 15, 20 years. The air conditioner is going to break down eventually. I just spent $5,000 repairing the 2 ACs at my Scottsdale home. The water heater is going to go out every 5, 7, 10 years. Right? Think about all these things that was going to break inside your home. So it's unreasonable to think that you don't have any maintenance expenses, right? It could just be as simple as landscaping and pest control. Make sure you set aside that money every single month, because then otherwise you would be overestimating how much money you're making because you were underestimating your expenses. So don't be that person. Don't be that person where in 10 years or 20 years, you get a $20,000 roof replacement and all of a sudden you realize you made no money for the past 10, 20 years because you didn't set aside $150 every single month for that expense that you knew were coming. All right. Then you got 10% for your property management. You got 5% for your vacancy. So this property now has all my expenses. So now I'm going to go in there and calculate how much my PITI is. All right. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to update my down payment percentage, 25%. So my cash down payment is going to equals to my B4, which is my asking price, multiplied by my down payment percentage in F19. And that's going to equals to about $41,000. I got 2.5% for closing costs, and I got $4,700 for my renovations that we talked about earlier. For my financing amount, right? In K6, this is my primary loan. I'm going to equals to my B4, my asking price, minus E19, because that's my down payment amount. And the total amount I'm financing is about $123,000. I'm going to use roughly around 8% interest rate right now, since I know interest rates might be going up and down all the time, but 8% seems right for me, a little bit conservative. Could be lower if you use your income and your W-2 wages to kind of guarantee it. But that's what I have. I don't have a secondary loan here. So now I know how much I'm making on this property, right? After all my expenses, assuming I rent it out for $1,457 as a 4-bedroom, $1,457, my cash flow per month is negative $129 after all my expenses. And my cash and cash return is negative 3.1%. So to me, that is not a deal right now at $163,900 with a $4,700 rehab, assuming a down payment was 25% and 8% interest rate. Now watch what happens as I lower my asking price, right, to the cash and cash return. You see that this is 3.1% right now. If I lower my asking price to $100,000, look, now all of a sudden it's 8.3. So let's say my target is 10%. Now, obviously, this is not an investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm just showing you all the work that I'm doing every single day. Well, now all of a sudden at 95 grand, I'm at 9.7, 9.8%. That's probably close enough. So if I see in this area where I see a turnkey, relatively turnkey property for 95 grand, I know I'll be making about 9.7% of my money if I bought this property or was able to buy this property for $95,000. Okay. That's how you can think about it. Now, let's say interest rates continue to go down, right? Watch what happens as I go back to, let's watch what happens as I go down to 7% on my interest rate. If I go down to 7%, this jumped up to 11.62%. So now I have more room, right? Because of how high or how lower the interest rates went down, my willingness to pay, meaning the purchase price that I'm willing to pay for this property, can go up. So now all of a sudden I can go back to, let's say, $100,000. Okay. So because of that 1% drop in the interest rate, I am now willing to pay $5,000 more for the same property, same condition, assuming everything else is the same, as long as I can rent the property for $1,457. So $1,457. In this scenario, I'm still cash flowing $274 a month. That's a 10.2% return. But now I can pay $100,000, assuming everything else stay constant, with a $4,700 rehab and a 7% interest rate. Now, we'll do one more scenario today. Let's say you got an inspection, and all of a sudden they find something in the wall, and they say, "Hey, this is going to cost you 5x," right? Let's say instead of your rehab now of $4,700, it's now $24,000 because one, the sewer line needed to get replaced because it's all out of whack and you couldn't see in the photos, and there were bigger holes in the roof, so now the roof needs to get replaced. Now I was thinking rehab just like that because of 2 items is $24,000. Watch what happens to your cash and cash return. It's now a 6.4% return, right? So how do you make that back, right? Your interest rate is still 7% right now. Well, in that scenario, if I go back down to $90,000, what does that do? 8%, $80,000, 9.8. So this is how you take emotion out of your analysis, right? Keep it focused. Don't freak out just because you went under contract for $100,000 and you thought you were going to get a 10% deal. Now all of a sudden your rehab 5x, right? So everything stayed the same. The rent's still $1,457, but now because you lowered your purchase price to $80,000 from the prior scenario of $100,000, right? Your rehab is now $24,000. You're still doing 25% down and 7% interest rate, but now all of a sudden you are back to a 9.8% return on your money, as long as you can buy this property for $80,000. So you might go under contract for $100,000 with the inspection contingency, and now all of a sudden you're asking the seller for a $20,000 credit so that you can cover the incremental rehab that needs to get done. So that's it. That's what I wanted to cover with all of you today. I wanted to show you all how to go through the process, look at a deal that's on the market, right? So this is the deal. It's on MLS. I'm not making it up. You can analyze this property. You can use the same spreadsheet I use. You guys want to copy the spreadsheet, just go to affordablehousing.io. Go to the Get Deal Analysis tool, put in your name, your email, your phone number. Promise I won't spam you. This is the fastest way to get the spreadsheet. I didn't make the spreadsheet from scratch. I got it from a few other folks. I just tweaked it and modified it. I combined multiple spreadsheets, including the rehab calculator. I added my own numbers based on my experience. The numbers might probably be different for every single city or every single market. That's just the natural truth. It's on you. This is a template. You can update it for your own purposes. This is just my way of how I can quickly look at a deal and decide whether or not it's worth my time, right? At the end of the day, I know this property probably won't go for 80 grand. So I'm not going to spend my time getting someone out there to go take photos for me. I'm not going to spend my time and energy trying to get a contractor out there to go give me a bid for the job or walk the property. Because if a contractor is good, chances are they're busy. And if they realize that you're just sending them out to walk jobs that you're not really serious about buying, then eventually they're going to stop picking up your calls. Don't be that person. Learn how to analyze deals. Just get a general rule of thumb to decide whether it's worth your time. And if you know it's not worth your time, move on. Because how do we avoid burning out? We avoid burning out by not doing all the work for nothing, right? We burn out because we do a lot of work for no return on our efforts. So don't be that person. So when you're able to do it, what you want to do is put it on your own YouTube channel at that point in time. I hope you are able to copy my homework, analyze the same deal, analyzing the same spreadsheet, put it on your own YouTube channel. So because at some point in time, you're going to go back and realize, oh, wow, like I probably know what I'm doing. And this is for your own good. But if a partner ever asks you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? You can go back and show them like, hey, I know this is a deal because, man, I've been looking at deals for the past 319 days and they were all not deals. Right? Remember, the goal of here is not to put in the reps for yourself, not for views. No one's going to watch your stuff. Look, there's some places with like 9 views. That's not the point. The point is for you to get comfortable, for you to put in habits and create the healthy habits that will allow you to be successful in real estate. So I hope you all have an amazing Wednesday. I hope you guys spend some quality time with your family and friends today. I'll be back here again tomorrow for day 320. Have an amazing day, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow.